What do you do when you face insults, persecution, or attacks because of your Christian faith? It's no secret that in the Christian life, you will face all of these things at some point. It's really critical for the Christian to know how to deal with these things when they come, so that we don't lose heart, so that we don't get discouraged and want to give up on the race. So in today's video, I want to share with you some scriptures that should hopefully encourage you and even prepare you for when this happens to you. And I want to start by sharing a really famous story that I like to share in these kinds of cases because it tells us a lot about God and it tells us a lot about the human heart. And these are both really important to understand in these circumstances. This story I'm about to share comes from 1 Kings 19, and it happens after the really famous story where Elijah defeats the prophets of Baal. If you've never read that story before, you really should go read it before you continue in the video even, just because that'd be some really helpful context. But even if you don't, you could listen to the video and finish it, and then hopefully go back and read that story. It should give you some greater context. The short version is that Elijah had this amazing victory there, or really God had the amazing victory, and Elijah got to be used in that process, and Elijah was shown to be a prophet of the true and living God. And so you would think that Elijah would be really excited, really encouraged, courageous, ready for whatever else God has in store. Right after that victory, Elijah goes and confronts King Ahab and Jezebel, who was one of the queens over Israel, who was a foreign queen. She came from a different nation who brought in all her foreign gods and really made it normal within Israel to worship all these gods. And so this is one of the reasons why Elijah's victory up there on Mount Carmel was so important and so pivotal. But Jezebel, she doesn't become afraid of God. If anything, she becomes more emboldened, and she wants to come after Elijah and all those who would not bow their knee to Baal. So just in short, Elijah is feeling defeated. He's highly discouraged after that encounter. And so that's where we pick up right here. So it says in 1 Kings 19, verse 9, "There he came to a cave and lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said, 'What are you doing here, Elijah?' He said, 'I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away.' And he said, 'Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord.' And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in the pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, 'What are you doing here, Elijah?' He said, 'I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away.' And the Lord said to him, 'Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. And when you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu, the son of Nimshi, you shall anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, of Abel Meholah, you shall anoint to be prophet in your place. And the one who escapes from the sword of Hazael shall Jehu put to death, and the one who escapes from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha put to death. Yeah, I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him.'" Okay, and I know that was a lot that I just read, but let me point out to you what I see as the climax, the highlight of this. So one, God shows Elijah that he's not just in the spectacular. Like, he showed up there at Mount Carmel, he showed his presence and power in that way, but God is always working in ways that we cannot fully comprehend, in ways that you can't even begin to fathom. He's working in a million different ways. He's planning so many different things. He has a grand plan, but in order to enact that grand plan, it requires so many moving pieces. And for example here, Elijah thinks that he's alone. He says it a couple times there before God. He really thinks he's alone. He's the only one standing for God. And yet God says, "I have prepared 7,000 people who have not bowed down to Baal." And so you're not alone, Elijah. And actually, you're going to be able to even really kind of pass the baton over to these couple people who are going to take the baton and run. And so be encouraged. Don't be discouraged at this time. And so hearing that, it's really important for us to take away the principle here that God is a God who is everywhere. He's working all at once. He loves you. He has great plans, and he doesn't leave you on your own. When he sends us out, Jesus, for example, said in Matthew 28, go therefore. Well, we go therefore with his authority. He already has all authority in heaven and on earth, and we go with that authority. The reality is, typically, when we face opposition, when someone is attacking us and is coming against us, we're going to feel that need to react, to get defensive, to become discouraged, whatever it might be. One, we shouldn't be surprised that this is happening. Jesus told us already that this would happen. And he says, actually, when people hate you, they're not really hating you, they hate me. Not just that, but of course, people who are listening to the gospel as you share the gospel in your faith, well, their minds are still blinded. They don't know any better. And so when they reject you, really overall, we don't have to take that personally. We don't have to think they hate me as a person. And even if they did, which typically isn't the case, but even if they did hate you as a person, what does it really matter, right? If someone could hear the gospel, to give someone that opportunity, it is a blessed privilege and gift. And I really pray that you would go boldly into your schools, your communities, your families, and share this gospel. Yes, at times you're going to be insulted, persecuted, rejected, and attacked. All of those things will happen, but the Lord is with you. He is the one fighting the battles for you. The battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the demonic forces, right? Against the spiritual realm that we can't even see. And so it's so encouraging to know that God is fighting our battle, and all you have to do overall is to trust him and obey him. And through that, I know you will have joy. And so that's it for today. If you have any stories to share, any comments to make, please leave that below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not a subscriber yet. And yeah, at this point, I'm gonna see you next year. This is gonna be the last video of December, which means it's the last video of the year. And so see you next year. God bless you. Love you. Peace.